Hello, everyone. Welcome to K2K, making a universal Kafka replicator. I'm going to be blinding myself wandering back and forth here. So, as you all know, Kafka spent his early years wandering the streets of... Oh, sorry, wrong Kafka presentation. At least somebody got it. All right, hey, welcome to K2K. We're going to talk about making a universal Kafka replicator. I am your speaker. My name is Drew Oetzel. The O is silent. I have absolutely no idea why. You'll have to ask my great-grandfather. I am a developer advocate for lenses. They made me put these numbers up. They make me feel old. I'm sorry to say. I have 32 years of IT experience. One of the things I love to tell is the very first project I worked on, and it makes people laugh, especially sometimes when they say, what is a CD-ROM? I was part of the CD-ROM revolution, believe it or not, back 32 years ago. I was scanning whole books onto CD. The high-speed scanner was about this big, and I had to take it apart just about every half an hour because something would go wrong. So I've been working with distributed systems for 10 years. I have a knack of picking the loser, though. 10 years ago, I was working for Mesosphere, working with Mesos. So I switched over to Kubernetes quickly afterwards. But in my days with Mesosphere, that's when I first started working with Kafka. We actually had a distributed Kafka implementation for Mesos. It was super cool. It was Strimzy way before Strimzy was even a thing. So I'm pretty proud of that. I often find myself in exotic locales, sometimes for work, sometimes not. All right, so we're going to be talking about replicating from a Kafka cluster to another Kafka cluster. So sometimes it gets a little confusing because Kafka replicates within itself. So now we're not talking about that kind of replication. We're talking about you're going from on-prem to AWS, or you're going from AWS to Azure, or you're going from Azure to back to on-prem, however you like to do it. But we're also talking about some more complex things, a little bit deeper into the Kafka topic. We're talking about preserving your consumer group offsets. So we are talking about actually replicating your data in a very informed way, not just, oh, I made a copy of it. No, I made a usable copy of it. I made a copy of it for disaster recovery that can pick right back up where it left off. We're also talking about crossing the vendor boundary. So we're going from Confluent to MSK, or we're going from MSK to Strimzy, or Strimzy to open source Kafka. We don't care. We do not care the source. We don't care the destination. As long as it speaks the Kafka API, that's what we're talking about. And if you're going to be crossing vendors, you're probably going to be crossing schema registries. We're talking about that too. So we don't care. We will help you map from one schema registry to the other schema registry. Maybe you're going same to same. That's even easier. But we like things hard, so we're going to say, you know what? We don't care what the destination schema registry is. Now, exactly once. What does that mean? Well, if you're talking about transaction data, I would love if, accidentally my bank duplicated a deposit, but I would not love if they duplicated a withdrawal. So that's what we mean by exactly once. If you're duplicating transactional data, you need to make sure it only gets duplicated once. Now, if you're familiar with things that are out there now, Mirror Maker comes to mind, obviously. That's probably the realm of platform engineering. If you're dealing with Mirror Maker, the average developer is probably not going to be bringing up Mirror Maker and making this kind of operation. They're going to be filing a ticket and, crossing their fingers and, hoping within a couple of weeks they'll actually get some duplication. But we're talking about you, the developer, logging into your laptop, in your back garden, in shorts and a t-shirt, no fingers crossed, replicating Kafka with these kind of rules No Kafka Connect required, no mirror maker, just our product lenses. So, all right, that's our vision. That's where we wanted to go. That's what we wanted. We wanted you chilling, sipping a margarita in your backyard, hitting replicate, and then playing with your kids and watching the events go by. That's our vision. So, what I want to walk us through, though, is, we're all developers here. I want to kind of walk us through the product management thought process that went behind our Kafka to Kafka replicator. And so the first thing a product manager is going to ask is, why? Why do I want to replicate? What are the typical replication use cases? Let's break them down. Disaster recovery. Obviously, if my data is in New York and, a hurricane is coming, maybe I want to make sure my data has been replicated across to San Francisco, or my data is in, Tokyo and you're worried about Godzilla, you might want to replicate it to San Francisco as well. So when you're going to be replicating for disaster recovery, though, that's when you're really going to care about things like, I want to make sure my offsets are correct. Because if I'm doing disaster recovery and the meteor hits New York, San Francisco needs to come online immediately so we can, keep, manufacturing widgets even though there's meteors striking the earth. But that's the kind of thing you need to keep in mind with disaster recovery. You need to get your data replicated correctly with consumer offsets, with transactional data only once. But the other thing you need to keep in mind is you need to be able to do it in a timely fashion. So one of the things that we really looked into is how fast do these things replicate? Can you scale up? Can you scale down? Can you scale up during your busy time? Can you scale down during your slow time? Because if you're replicating for disaster recovery and your replicator is behind by 500,000 events, well, your disaster isn't quite recovered. It's only half recovered. So that's another aspect of disaster recovery. We need to make sure that it's happening in a very rapid manner so that, when the meteor does hit, God forbid, you only lose a few seconds of data and maybe your friends and family in San Francisco. But, saved your data. All right. Sorry, that got dark. Sorry. Next one up, we have migrate. So, in this day and age, you might want to be migrating from AWS to Azure, Azure to Google Cloud back onto your own, you built your own internal cloud. Like everybody's becoming multi-cloud. Everybody is rediscovering the joys of on-prem. And so you need to move your data around from one, location to another. You might also be moving from, say, open source to Strimzy, because turns out it's no fun to run Kafka, open source Kafka and Kubernetes all on your own. It's more fun to use something like Strimzy that allows you to do it in a much quicker, much easier way. Well, that's another use case for this type of replication. This is the kind of thing where you're going to want to, again, probably make only once. Like if this is transactional data, you only want a single copy of it. Another case this would be another case maybe for offsets, maybe not. You might have completely new consumers on the other side, so you might not care as much about offsets in this circumstance, but you certainly will be interested in schema. So, if you're migrating to MSK and Amazon and you're using Glue and your source is coming from open source schema registry, you're definitely going to want to map schema to schema in that kind of situation. So we're only at 2. There's so many reasons to migrate. Internal sharing. So we see a lot of Kafka at the edge. So you've got processes running at your factory. I've seen whole Kubernetes clusters on top of cellular towers, if you can believe it or not. And so that kind of edge Kafka cluster might need to send its data into the cloud. Maybe it needs to send just a subset of its data into the cloud. So maybe I need to filter my data. Maybe I need to route my data. Maybe my factory Kafka has logs that need to go to a security cluster on the cloud, and it's got transactions that need to go to my management cluster on the cloud. So I need to be able to route data. I need to be able to filter. Maybe my log data is really, really repetitive, and my network line from the factory isn't so great. So maybe I want to eliminate duplicates before I actually do the replication. There could even be anonymization. Maybe there's things that are happening at the edge that don't necessarily need to be replicated into the central cluster. So you've got all of those considerations when you're moving data around just within your own organization. You could also be, maybe I'm in the sales department. Maybe I have the sales department cluster, but now all of a sudden the marketing department, they have their own engineering setup. They're going to want some of our data. We don't want to necessarily give them the credit card numbers. So again, that's another case for anonymization, even intra-department. This is another one we see quite a bit. There's something, have you heard of synthetic data? There like lots of different places like to make synthetic data. And I spent like 6 years at Splunk making synthetic data. It is not as easy as you think to make good synthetic data. The other thing we're seeing a lot is people will just take their prod data, maybe anonymize it, maybe mask certain parts of it, and then use that instead of synthetic data. Because what's a better representation of your prod data than your prod data? But just with the culprits, the customers' names removed. So again, this is another case where you definitely may want to route or transform or anonymize that data before it passes from prod down to staging. Your security team's not going to like again, sending email addresses and credit card numbers to staging and prod, but that form, the actual, the bumpiness of the data and everything that makes it real for testing purposes can be really handy to be able to just copy it down directly from prod to staging or dev. This one, we're seeing this more and more actually, sharing externally. So we have an example of, there's ticketing systems that need to share with their customers immediately. Like their customers don't want to wait for the stream of data the ticketing system has to actually hit the ticketing system, get processed, and then, maybe alert them. No, they want a copy of that data streamed live so they can react to it in as live, real-time as fashion as well. Or maybe you have a European partner you want to share with the US, or you have a US partner you want to share with Europe. So again, this is the kind of thing that you might want to share to a completely foreign Kafka cluster. This circumstance, anonymization is going to be really important, obviously. Transformation is probably going to be important as well. Things like offsets, maybe not, because they're going to have their own applications on the other side. But you might definitely want to have only once. You might want to have that transactional style of only once for this type of replication as well. So, you don't send it over 5 copies and they think everything's broken and there's only one thing broken. So those are kind of these are the reasons why you might want to replicate your Kafka data. So we wanted to make sure we understood all the different reasons, all the different things that could crop up when you're doing this type of replication. All right, that was the first thing. The next thing we looked at was what's on offer now. What are our various different ways that different companies, different open source projects allow you to replicate your Kafka data. And so we came up with this metric, delivery. So this is when I'm talking about transformation, scalability, routing. This is where I'm saying one type of data is going to one type of cluster, another type of data is going to another type of cluster. Transforming, that's the anonymization. That's the maybe you're joining two together and then sending to a third. Ops and security, those are pretty self-explanatory. Does the product have role-based access control? How easy is it to use? Do you have to juggle 17 YAMLs and spin up 2 Connect clusters? Vendor agnostic, does it work only within a single vendor's ecosystem, or does it work throughout different types of vendors? Is it open source? This one is the most subjective, but I think it's the most important. Is it easy? Is it something I can do by clicking around in a UI, or am I going to be, opening up my YAML editor and I'm worrying about indentation and I'm doing kubectl apply? Is that what's going on, or am I just clicking around in my backyard sipping a margarita? Is it SaaS? That's pretty simple. And this last one, can you get technical support? And by technical support, I mean a person to call, a person to message. I don't mean some forum. I don't mean ChatGPT. I mean an actual live human that can at least cry with you, even if they can't help you. So, all right. So that was our matrix. This is what we're looking at. And I'm using these color codes, great, okay, and not so much, to kind of rate all of the main products that we have out there right now. So the big one, the one that is around everywhere, the open source one, it's called Mirror Maker. Now it's called Mirror Maker 2. Raise your hand if you've worked with Mirror Maker. All right. So it's free, it's open source. It delivers the goods. It will actually move your data. It does some routing, it does some transformation. You really have to know your Kafka connectors if you're going to be doing that kind of thing. Ops and security, it's an open source project. Not really, it's whatever you make for it. Vendor agnostic, Mirror Maker is an open source project. It will work across different vendors. Obviously, I keep saying it's open source, so it gets the full dark orange on openness. Easy that's the one that I think that falls down the most on easy. It's not a SaaS, and there is no support. There's forums. There's you can search on Reddit. There's all the typical, but there's no human to on the other end of the phone line that's going to be able to help you out. So one of the things we don't like about it, it's not Kubernetes native, so it's hard to scale. You can run it in Kubernetes, but it's not Kubernetes native. So it's really hard to scale up and scale down and take advantage of the aspects of Kubernetes that allows you to do that. It's really hard to do good easy transformations, anonymizations. It can be done, but it's all about replicating your data from one Kafka cluster to another. Schema, you're on your own there. Same thing for offsets. Confluent Replicator. All right, this one is basically Mirror Maker, but with support. It has a lot of the same drawbacks. You got the know exactly once. It's not super easy to use. This is subjective, but we do find it can be rather expensive, especially compared to the open source. It will copy from anywhere to Confluent. So it's a little less than perfectly vendor agnostic, but I actually have several friends that work in Confluent support, and I know you can talk to them if you're having trouble with Mirror Maker. So it definitely provides the support level in a very good way. All right. And this isn't comprehensive. I didn't want to spend 45 minutes just going through all the different vendors and their methods of rep. We tried to look at some of the main ones, get the idea of how they work, and for a lot of these, actually, they're just implementations of Mirror Maker. So that you're not going to go through every single one. But the MSK replicator is interesting. It brings all of the sort of the benefits and drawbacks of Mirror Maker because it's based on that. But one of its key drawbacks is it will replicate MSK to MSK. It will not allow you to replicate outside of its own ecosystem. It is absolutely a SaaS. It's AWS. It's by definition, it's a SaaS. It is a little bit easier than just plain Jane Mirror Maker. So you do have, it's a little bit easier. Obviously, you have all of the ops and security of AWS, so that is another plus in its favor. I couldn't support. Yes. Enough said. No more commentary on that one. And then the last one is probably the most advanced and the most interesting, and this is Confluent Cluster Linking. Now, this is a capability that is unique to the Confluent ecosystem, and it's something they've built themselves. It's not just based on Mirror Maker. So it does it. It delivers the goods. It'll get you. It'll replicate things like offsets. It doesn't really route. It just replicates the whole topic. It's not really about transformation. It's just, again, replicating the whole topic. Actually, I want to turn this one. This one deserves ops and security. It does have ops and security. It has Confluent ops and security. It is absolutely not vendor agnostic. It is for Confluent cluster to Confluent cluster. It is not, you're not going to, it's not about getting your data out of Confluent and into MSK or into Strimzy or into whatever. It's not open source. It is easy, especially with the console, especially with Confluent Cloud. It is a SaaS because it's with Confluent Cloud. And like I said, Confluent has excellent support. So it definitely provides the support. So this is kind of, and there are other ones out there that fall under very similar, very similar pros and cons. But these are kind of that's the system that we're looking at. So before I show you our actual version, we have a little bit of a halftime ad break. So I need Larry David here or somebody, if I'm really going to do the halftime ad break. So the company behind all of this, we're Lenses. We're the ones that built this Kafka to Kafka replicator. We're about Kafka for developers. We're a Kafka developer experience. Platform engineers love us too, but our target audience is developers. That's why we're here at DevX. Or DevOps, sorry. So that's the main reason, that's kind of our main target audience. Like I said, platform teams like us, but I think the thing that platform teams like us most for is we reduce their tickets. We reduce their Kafka tickets. We empower their developers to go in and find the stuff out themselves, to make their own queries. They don't have to file 17 tickets just to see what's going on. So Lenses sits on top of your streaming fabric, so it sits on top of your Kafka clusters. It provides the operating fabric for your developers, for your human engineers, for AI assistants, agentic AI frameworks, all of our robot replacements. And you can explore the data live within Kafka, process it, you can transform it, you can share it, you can integrate it, you can monitor it, you can discover it, you can run searches to find it wherever it lives across your enterprise. Unlike other Kafka UIs, it is multi-Kafka, so you can have all of your clusters in one single place, then you can view all of their topics in one single place. So why did we build a K2K replicator? Whoops. The simplest answer is our customers asked us to. But that's it. Like that's not the only reason, but that is the number one. That's what got the ball rolling. Many of our customers said, we really would like you all to tackle cluster replication the way you've tackled searching within topics, the way you've tackled managing Kafka and making Kafka available for developers. We would really like you to build that. So that's honestly what it was. It was multiple customers asking for it. The other reason is we find that a lot of customers want to branch out. They have on-prem Kafka, but maybe they want to try MSK. Maybe they want to try something else. Maybe they want to move around. Maybe they've acquired other companies that have other flavors of Kafka. So they definitely want something that allows them to move the data around within their infrastructure. If you know anything about the whole AI revolution and everything that's taking over, AI is super data hungry. AI is only as good as the data that's flowing into it. And our customers are figuring out that, you know what, there's all this data in one part of my company that is probably going to be useful to the AI that we're developing in another part of my company. How am I going to get it there? How am I going to get it out of the black box that is Kafka take an airline example, Kafka that's in the baggage handling system to the customer service system so that, you can build an app that alerts people when they lose your bags or, alerts people when your bags are ready and what carousel they're on. That kind of cross-departmental data sharing is going to be key, especially as, the AI, the hungry AI is always on the search for more data for it to be more useful. So Lens's pedigree, we started off in 2016, way back when. We built the first tooling for Kafka, above and beyond anything that else was out there at the time. We started developing SQL for exploration of your data in 2018. We even did SQL for processing first. Yes, we were like 2 weeks before KSQL, SQLDB. So, that's what counts. So we're definitely one of the biggest contributors to Kafka connectors. We have a whole panoply of open source Kafka connectors that we offer. And we have more than 30 plus people, Kafka experts, working on our product, working on Kafka connectors, contributing to the Kafka project overall, deep experience with all different kinds of Kafka users and Kafka implementations. All right, K2K is different. So our research, we came up with this Kafka replication checklist. It has to be able to do data migration, keeping offsets if necessary. It has to be able to do schema migration. There's consumer offsets. It has to do flexible topic routing. So I want to send, half my data here, half my data over there. It needs to have cost-effective scaling. So that means it probably needs to run in something like Kubernetes, where it's super easy to scale up your pods and scale down your pods as needed. We have a specific customer that during the day they're super busy and they want to replicate the data. At night they're not so busy. Their stores are closed, so there's a lot less data. So they want to be able to scale down their replication because they literally have thousands of topics across hundreds of clusters, and they want to be able to replicate these rapidly during the day. But then at night, when things are slow, they want to be able to scale down and save a few pennies on Azure overnight. Robust governance. If you're going to empower your developers, you also need to reassure your security team. If you're going to empower developers to make these kind of replications, from their backyard, you're definitely going to need the robust governance. Comprehensive monitoring. Like, I want to know how my data's flowing through, how much data's going through, what's going on with my data. I need to be able to anonymize my data. I need to be able to maybe join two different topics together. I may need to just selectively send the data along, so I need the data transformation. I need a simple engineering-friendly configuration, so in this day and age, that means YAML. And I need automation support, so again, replication as code. So, spinning things up, spinning things down on an automated basis. So that's where Lenses K2K comes in. We are Kubernetes native. We run off the Lenses control plane. We allow you to do things like replicate your offsets, migrate across schema registries. We are 100% vendor agnostic as long as it has the Kafka API. We endeavor always to be easy at Lenses. We want you to use the UI. You don't have to. You can still interact with it as code if you want, but the UI is our main focus, our main point of making it easy for you. We're not SaaS. We are not SaaS. We don't have plans to be SaaS. We run on-prem. We run in your cloud. We run as a container. We run on a VM, however you want, but we aren't SaaS. We obviously have good support. One of our support engineers is actually here. This one, so I am personally... So we are going to offer it in several different ways. We're obviously going to offer it as part of the whole Lenses Enterprise package. We're going to offer a free version that has limited functionality, but allows you to get an idea. I am personally pushing for it to be open, for us to open source the actual code that runs, like the thing that runs in the pod in Kubernetes. I'm pushing for that to be open source. The Lenses UI is never going to be open source, but I'm pushing for that. So, but we'll see what the CTO says. So I have to convince him. But so that's why I'm only getting a yellow on open. Like, I'm still pushing. We'll see how it goes. All right. So this is what K2K is. These are our goals for K2K. And the the comparisons here to the ones I had before. All right, ad break over. Time for a live demo. Pray for me. All right. So let's start here. I have two different environments because we are releasing K2K in 2 weeks. It is coming out. We're going to release it at, there's a big Kafka conference here on the 21st of May. It's called Current. Thank you. We're releasing it in 2 weeks. So the running version is literally on our development version. So you're going to see actual development lenses. This is demo lenses right here. So we're going to start with just demo. This is kind of our main view here. You see here we have all these different connected Kafka clusters. Again, it could be something like Azure Event Hub. It could be Confluent Cloud. It could be Confluent, any flavor of Kafka. You see we've got dev, staging, and prod. You can do a quick search here. So I could do a search for prod, P-R-O-D, not poured. And just bring up my prod clusters. So that's cool. That's all of our different environments. And I'm not going to dwell too much there. I'm going to jump over here real quick to topics. Obviously, there's going to be a whole lot more topics. You might have 10 or 15 topics per cluster. We have information. Let me make this bigger. We have information about the topics. You'll see our key types, mostly JSON, but we have Avro. I think there's a protobuf hiding here somewhere. Oh, they might have deleted the protobuf. But the nice thing is we don't care. We'll work with whatever schema you have. Now, I was kind of giving an example before of, I work for airline customer service. I want to, I want to build an app that finds lost luggage. So I work in customer service. I don't work in the luggage department. I have lenses, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to try to find topics that have to do with luggage. So I could do a little search here for luggage. All right, and it brought up all of my topics that have the keyword luggage in it. That's great. But what I really want to do is tick this little checkbox here and search in schema. Because now I'm actually searching one level lower than just the name of my topics. I'm actually searching by field names. So I can start to get, luggage situation, luggage timing, luggage location. These are the kind of fields that are probably going to be much more helpful to me as an engineer trying to build this application. So I could say, hey, maybe this airline luggage topic is the one I need to be working with. Airline luggage delayed customers. Yeah, this is, I can see a lot more deeply into my topics by clicking on the schema search. And then one last bit, and then I promise you I'm going to show you K2K. So this is our SQL Studio. This is where we allow you to actually search within your topics using simple SQL syntax. So what I can do here is, this is my dev cluster. If I click on airline luggage here, it automatically opens up and does a quick little SQL search. Now I can modify that search. we're not doing SQL here. We're just kind of flipping through. But I can actually kind of see my data. I can come here and say, oh, okay, look, this is probably important, luggage ID. This is also probably important, customer ID. These are two fields I'm probably going to be working with. Delayed, yes or no, that's probably another good one that I might want to be working with. So I can come in here into my dev cluster and see what the data looks like, start to be able to write my app. I've not filed a single ticket with the platform team. Nobody, I haven't touched Jira. I'm simply in here doing my exploration, finding the data that I need right here at my fingertips. But here's where it gets even better. Because if you see down here, this is my dev cluster. This is my prod cluster. I can come here, click on that, and now side by side, I have my prod data and my dev data. So, okay, this is what my dev data looks like. Let me just double check and make sure, see if the prod data looks similar. Can I come in here and compare my production data to my dev data? So this could be also useful for troubleshooting and a lot of other things. So, all right, now finally the moment of truth. Let me switch over here to our, this is literally our dev cluster, and our development team pushed something this morning that halfway broke my demo. So please forgive me. I'm gonna have I have a little cheat that I'm going to do. There's no way you're gonna miss it, but I'll show you anyway. So all right, I'm gonna come in here. This looks very similar. I'm gonna come and I am going to pick this orders fulfilled topic. And I come here and I simply click here and click where it says replicate data. Let me make this bigger. And so I've got my source, I've got the topic, and then it's just a matter of selecting my destination and clicking next. Now, K2K runs in Kubernetes, so I can specify, I want to run this in cluster. I can specify the namespace that I want to run it in. So I'm going to select K2K demo, and I'm going to hit next. Now, I can select at least once or exactly once. Remember that from earlier. I specify that, and then I go to my configuration. So again, now here is the YAML that's going to be governing this actual replication. This is fully editable, so I can give it I can change the name to Drew replication. I can change the display name as well, all from within here. But this is also where I'm going to be doing my cheat. So they pushed something this morning that broke my demo. This is what happens when you demo on your development environment. I don't recommend this at home, kids. So I'm going to here's my cheat. I have they made a special YAML that will work. So forgive me. All right. So then, obviously, the YAML's fully editable. Look at that. I completely replaced it. Then I'm going to set save and deploy. My new application is created. You can see here, I can view the configuration again. I can manage it. I can view the metrics as it's starting to replicate. I can see the partitions. I can see the offset. I can see the lag, all from within this nice UI. So now, we did the Kubernetes deployment from the UI. You could also, if you have something like Argo CD, you could just take the YAML and send that off to Argo CD, and it could do the deployment for you. You could have it set up so Lenses does the deployment if you're in dev and staging, but Argo CD does the deployment if you're in production. So you have all that kinds of flexibility because, again, this is all code. All right, so that was my demo. Whew, it mostly worked. Let me just finish out a couple more slides, and then we can go to questions. All right, so we offer a free forever version of Lenses, Community Edition. You get 2 clusters, 2 users, free forever. It comes in Docker Compose or Helm, or you could run it on a VM as well. So any modality of Lenses you can work with there. If you have questions, this is my email address. If next week you're like, wait a minute, what that guy with the beard, he said something that makes no sense. Email me and I'll see if I can figure it out. The other thing is, if you would like early access to K2K, if you would like to try K2K as part of our, and here in the UK they say beta program, where I'm from we would say the beta program. You're welcome. Send an email to info@lenses.io. We'd be happy to sign you up for the beta program. All right, so that is my presentation. Thank you very much. Now, if there are any questions, please hit me. Thank you. Yes.
You mentioned that you do some stuff with consumer offsets.
So in general in Lenses or in K2K? So we can replicate the consumer offset so that whatever the consumer on the other side could pick it back up again from in the right spot if they wanted to.
So not like Mirror Maker 2 where you're maintaining a mapping. You're actually trying to write the origins offset.
You can't. Yes. If that's particularly for like disaster recovery situations where that can be very important. Yes. More questions? Yes, way in the back. That's the early access, official early access. The beta program starts in 2 weeks. I don't have an example one right now, but we could get you one. Oh, there you go. I have a plant in the audience. Yes. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about some sort of transactional data, there has to be a single source of truth. But if you're talking about other log files or web page views or some other things that aren't necessarily transactional, where like money and things like that aren't on the line, single source of truth isn't necessarily as important. So it really gonna vary by data type, but for something like transaction, that's why the only once is so important, because it is the single source of truth. So if I'm migrating, sometimes you have to migrate. Sometimes the single source of truth has to move house. So that's why the only once is so important in that circumstance. All right, more questions? You already went, so.
You mentioned about scaling. Are you able to share kind of how the scaling works in terms of if you just run the one pod, or is there a
it's
scale up? And
it's just typical Kubernetes scaling based on memory and CPU. Yeah.
so how does that work in terms of then if you've got multiple pods, then is then the topics that are spread between them? Or?
Yeah, so it's going to have to refactor as it scales out. It's going to refactor, across the replicas, and then when it scales back down, it's going to refactor as well. It's not easy. We've actually dedicated a lot of engineering work to that. The signal we get is from Kubernetes, but the actual process is quite complex. Yeah, it is. Scaling up and down for that kind of replication is not easy. So yeah, it is. Yeah, that was quite a goal. That was one of the more difficult goals that we set for ourselves. So yeah, you put your finger on it. So, all right.
Do you replicate the control records, like transactions and things like that, or just the data records?
The metadata and the data can be replicated. Yes.
Okay, so if I've got, like, if I produce 10 messages and then roll back the transaction, those rollback messages and the rollback go across as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. More questions? All right. You have. Thank you very much for your attention. It's been fun. You have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to spare. Don't waste them.